Hello everyone, a quick video on this modification I make on these machines. These are Latitude 7520, but this applies to, of course, any laptop you want to modify this way. These are some general principles. So the idea is to transfer the heat to the top of the machine, to the keyboard area. This will slightly increase your temperature, your felt temperature on the keyboard, and slightly increase the thermal dissipation of the machine in a way that prevents the machine from overventilating, for example, or it will slightly increase the performance. The results may vary depending on the kind of limit your machine comes into. Like some machines are thermal limited, some machines are power limited. You never know, but it will generally increase the efficiency of the heat dissipation. So the way I did this in this kind of machine, like you can see that the motherboard is flipped this way. I decided to go this route, not to detach all the cables up there. I'm lazy, and every time you unlock any kind of cables from a motherboard, you have the slight risk of damaging it. So I'd rather go the lazy way. I used these parts as reference. This screw hole here, it is the same as this one. So these are the reference points, and this is properly shown on the motherboard correspond to this thing here. So I try to level out the materials that I'm using, but I didn't have the right height for the central part of the motherboard here. This one under the CPU. This is the CPU area. On the other side, you have the CPU, which is the part that makes that creates the major part of the heat, and so that's where this kind of operation is most important. And you can clearly see that you have two different heights here. This metal ring around is higher, so you will need a shorter thermal pad in this area. So I went with this one. I don't know the thickness of it. I just have a huge collection of thermal pads, and I try to level out on the height of those things. These are like metal supports that are put on the back of the keyboard to prevent the motherboard from flexing. So this should be the right height to touch this metal part up here, based on my observation on the position of the screw hole and this marking. Okay, so these metal things appear to correspond to these things and these areas. So I went with a super thin layer here. I will also put this super thin thermal pad up on this thing here. Originally here I had this black material that I removed with the help of a cutter, and I also cleaned up the surface from the glue on this area. I also did the same on this part where I had the VRM section. These are the power supply area for the CPU, which converts the 19 volts from the AC from a brick to the 1 volt to the CPU needs, around like from 0.6 to 1.2 volts usually is the range for the CPU power. And so this also gets quite hot, and I decided to also do the same procedure in this area. Again, I didn't have the proper height for the center of the CPU here, so I decided to cut all these thermal pads to the square size so that they will eventually even out as I apply pressure on the top. Speaking of applying pressure, of course, when I will put back the heat spreader, I will also put thermal pads on top of this, which will correspond to this area that I cleaned up on the back of the machine, and this will also apply pressure on the whole structure and make everything like a thermal pad sandwich. Okay. Then the next thing, the other thing I will do is put thermal pads on the back here, on the back of the heat spreader, so that they touch this area. I will also have to slightly clean up this area with a sandpaper. This is probably the most dangerous part, as you risk putting some metal residue in the machine. So I will do that by sanding and keeping the machine this way, so that any metal dust will just drop out from the left side, from the right side in this situation. And yeah, I guess that is all. The reason I did this, I do all of this, is again to improve thermal dissipation, everything. In this particular case, I have a slightly broken fan. This fan is slightly noisy, but the fan only kicks like when you run this update or you open something that is very taxing on the CPU. And my goal with this is to reduce the amount of time the fan needs to spin to keep the machine cool, and so create less noise. That is, I guess, all for the video. Thanks everyone for watching. Ciao.